The parallels between Berserk's tragic story and Nietzsche's philosophy are absolutely some of my favorite things to explore. And if you've ever read Those Spoke Zarathustra, you can probably think of a few off the top of your head. My two favorite ones are the speeches by Zarathustra on the Friend and on the Metamorphoses. I have seen many people point out that Griffith and Guts seem to represent two different versions of the Übermensch in Nietzsche's work. I don't think, however, that either version is complete. Neither version is absolute, and both versions are very morally different, even if philosophically connected. Griffith's role in causality is acceptance of the divine. His affirmation of faith to resolve struggle mirrors the amor fati Nietzsche presents. However, this affirmation of faith ends becoming rather than intensifying it, which places him inside Nietzsche's philosophy, but with a warning. A warning against the moment when a person explains themselves too well to themselves. Guts defies faith in order to remain capable of becoming, but he seems to be stuck, unable to transcend and forever fighting against the dragon of the thou shalt. But we will get back to this. First, I want to start with the On the Friend. On the Friend is one of my favorite sections in the entire book, and one I tend to go back to a lot. On rereading to prepare for this video, and coming off a fresh reread of the entire Berserk series, up to volume 42, I have to say I was surprised to realize how much the famous dream speech by Griffith alludes to the same philosophical framework that is presented by Nietzsche.
In my mind, a true friend never relies on another's dream. The man who would be my friend must have his own reason for living. Beyond me, he should never hesitate to defend it, even against me. For me to call a man my friend, he must be equal to me in all respects.
Nietzsche believes faith in others like a friend betrays how little faith you have in yourself. He thinks love for another can be a mask to overcome envy. Nietzsche states that sometimes one makes an enemy to conceal that one is open to attack. In other words, one's fear of vulnerability to that person makes you say, at least be my enemy. Nietzsche believes that to really be close as a friend, you must be able to resist them. A statement mirrored by Griffith in his dream speech. You need to be something to overcome. The true friend offers growth through challenge, not comfort. He needs to be capable of becoming your best enemy. When Guts hears Griffith's dream speech, he realizes he has been the camel up to this point. And we'll circle back to this. I'm going to tie this together, I promise. Griffith states that for him to consider someone a friend, he must be his equal. He would never hesitate to fight for his dream, even against Griffith himself. It is so hard to ignore how incredibly close they are in tone and delivery. Both ideas of friendship mirror each other so closely. Guts does not want Griffith to look down upon him, and to accomplish this, he must find his own dream. As Guts tries to leave the band of the Hawk, Griffith challenges him to a duel for his freedom. Is this Griffith actually saying, at least be my enemy? Recalling Griffith clearly stated a true friend must be able to stand even against him in the pursuit of his own dreams, Guts accepts the challenge. And after this, during the eclipse, things just get even more complicated. Griffith could have killed Guts a few times. And what starts as a rivalry begins to resemble something closer to dependency. We see it when Guts leaves, and we see it by the game that Griffith continues to play. And here we begin to see some moral differences, although still anchored to the same philosophy. On this first speech by Zarathustra, Nietzsche explains that an individual needs to go through three different phases of transformation to finally achieve one who can create new values. Values that are higher than those imposed by religion or society. These three metamorphoses are the camel, the lion, and the child. I did not come up with them. These are metaphors he chose to use, and I'm just parroting them back at you. The burden bearer, the camel, is a spirit that takes on the weight of morality, duty, and knowledge often imposed by religion and society. Guts parallels this perfectly by fighting for survival and then for Griffith's dream, following his commands, unquestioningly No goals or dreams of his own, just following orders and values imposed upon him, bearing the burden and growing as an individual. Griffith follows his own dream from the very start, and he never seems to burden himself with any values outside of himself. This may seem like a step forward, but this is something Nietzsche warns against. You need to shoulder the burden, because only what has been carried can later be transformed. Not because obedience is good, but because endurance teaches weight. Every one of these stages is supposed to teach you something. In its simplest form, the lion is a spirit seeking freedom from imposed values. Instead of obeying the thou shalt, the lion rebels against it. The lion wants to fight his master and his last god for ultimate victory. He wants to fight with the great dragon of thou shalt. Nietzsche admires will that endures burden. Guts endures in his fight against causality, Griffith, and even the Godhand. But Nietzsche also warns against letting the lion become an identity, because there is still one more step. In this aspect, Guts is stuck in the lion, but he has shown growth through that endurance. He has not skipped steps, and he may yet evolve. At the eclipse, we can see Griffith had embodied an incomplete lion and had somewhat skipped the camel, as I said before. Griffith had performed well up to that point by challenging the norms of society, but when confronted with the ultimate challenge of pushing against causality and the God hand, he chose to embrace it as a means to resolve accountability. The last transformation is the child. It embodies new beginnings, rebirth, and as I said before, the lion is not enough. You need to create values for yourself in order to transcend. And I can see some people pointing to Griffith's rebirth at the Tower of Conviction and his merging with the Moonchild as an example, but I don't think it holds. The Moonchild is not self-authored. It is bound by destiny, shares its embodiment with Griffith, and exists to fulfill a pre-written role. Griffith's rebirth is avoiding the struggle. The child is not a destination, it is a consequence of what was endured and overcome. In that sense, Griffith doesn't embody Nietzsche's child, he embodies what Nietzsche warns against, the false creator, the one who builds a world without ever risking himself in its making. As I said, Guts seems to be stuck in the lion phase, and Griffith skips so many steps we no longer have a clear picture of where he's headed. Will Guts transcend the lion? Is Guts the only thing preventing Griffith from collapsing inward? After volume 42, I am left wondering if Guts is about to go through his rebirth. He seems to enter a state of regression, maybe the forgetting that comes after remembering. I don't know. We'll see. Below I'm linking some subreddits with interesting interpretations on the Berserk Nietzsche parallels that I think are worth a look. I am really enjoying making these videos. Please subscribe and drop a comment with any suggestion or recommendations for me to dive into.